Blog Talk Radio.
Now, get up out your seats. Coming to the ring. Now, but I'm wondering if you can bring in with one win, no losses, undefeated in the streets, weighing in over 300 pounds. IHWE Radio. When the round bell is ringing in the ring, then I be singing. I'm here to get that crowd loud. I'm wondering if you can bring it. When the round bell is ringing in the ring, then I be singing. But I'm here to get that crowd loud. But I'm wondering if you can bring it. When the round bell is ringing in the ring, then I be singing. I'm here to get that crowd loud. But I'm wondering if you can bring it. When the round bell is ringing in the ring, then I be singing. But I'm here to get that crowd loud. But I'm wondering if you can bring it.
All right, everybody. Once again, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 6 p.m. on the sunny coast of California, and you are tuned in to IHWE Radio. I am your host, Michael McCurdy, the creator and author of Encyclopedia WCCW, and joining me, as always, is my co-host live in Fort Worth, David Fuller. David, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing excellent. I've been under the weather the past couple of days. I'm ready to rock and roll tonight. As a fan who grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth territory and the founder of the Texas Wrestling Hall of Fame, this show is going to be very special tonight. Michael, I give you hats off for having this idea and getting everything together. I'm really excited. We got a great show lined up, great panel.
Yes, we do. We have a great show. We do have a great panel. Tonight, we are celebrating, not memorializing, celebrating the life and the career of the late Frank Goodish, better known to everyone as Bruiser Brody, a legend in Texas, St. Louis, Japan, basically a legend all over the world. Wherever the man went, we all know the name. We all remember the man. We've all seen the matches. Today would have been his birthday. Not sure how old he was going to be, but June 18th was his birthday. We decided today we wanted to celebrate. And I'm going to state right now, we do have some callers coming in. I am issuing a little bit of a disclaimer. At no point in time during this show will we be discussing the events of July 1988 or any of the names involved in the incidents of July 1988. We all know what happened. We're not here to discuss that. We're here to remember a great man. And to do that, I'm going to introduce our panel. First, we're going to start off world-class referee, IHWE Hall of Famer, author, James Beard. James, welcome to IHWE Radio.
Well, thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here and actually an honor to be here. I'm really excited about being able to do, like you said, celebrate Frank's birthday and talk about, I think, maybe one of the most unique and definitely one of the most successful wrestlers of our generation.
Thank you for joining us, James. Also on our panel tonight, from up in the Washington area, noted historian specializing a lot in the career and life of Bruiser Brody, Matt Farmer. Matt, thank you for joining us on IHWE Radio.
Hey, thanks for having me. You know, I'm really excited to be here. I'm actually really excited to listen to this podcast, let alone be on it. So thanks for having me, guys.
No problem, man. Thank you for joining us. And now I feel this is the main event of this podcast. I'm very proud to have this lady join us tonight. Definitely going to be able to give us a look into the life and times and career of the late Bruiser Brody. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to IHWE Radio. Sorry, I'm a little stammered here. Frank's widow, Barbara Goodish. Barbara, welcome to IHWE Radio.
Well, thank you, Michael and David, for honoring Frank on his birthday with your Bruiser Brody tribute show. And, you know, it really means so much to his family that he is still being remembered, and he would have been 68 today, but I don't think that would have slowed him down a bit.
Still be in that ring kicking some tail, right? That's the way it's going to be.
Oh, yes, and I am so amazed at how many good wishes I have received from all over the world today. I mean, he sure did leave some lasting memories, and it's something that is so hard to believe. I've been going through and reading some of the comments that people have made, and I mean, it's just unbelievable. And David, I am so looking forward to meeting you, and thank you for the invitation to be part of your IHWE event on the 28th of September in Fort Worth, Texas. You know, wrestling was always part of my life for so many years. And, you know, if anyone has any stories out there, I'd love them to come and meet me in Fort Worth. And, in fact, you know, unfortunately, I could not make the your Texas Hall of Fame last year when he was inducted, and that was such an honor. And this also was a special year when he was inducted into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in Amsterdam, New York. And, you know, if anyone is in that area, it is a place that is definitely worth a visit. It's just the history of wrestling from the beginning, and it is so fascinating.
Well, Barbara, I'm going to jump in here. You know, Frank Bruiser Brody is one of the most respected and talked about names still. I grew up down here in Dallas-Fort Worth, so I was watching Bruiser Brody when I was a little boy, and you just knew Bruiser Brody. You knew he meant business when he came on that TV screen. You know, people who want to question how real wrestling was, well, you didn't question anything when Bruiser Brody got into the ring. You knew that man was there to do one thing, and that's beat somebody up and make his money. I want to thank you for, number one, accepting allowing us to induct Frank into the Hall of Fame last year. You know, I wanted to speak to you, and you know, I wanted to tell you about what we did, and you were just open arms. You accepted it, you embraced it. You know, we worked hard on getting you down here, and just, you know, last minute things came up. Stan Hansen came. He's going to join us here in a little bit. He gave a wonderful recollection of Frank. And I am so honored that you are going to, you know, spend time with us down here in Fort Worth on September 28th. James Beard is going to be there. Stan Hansen's going to be there. Jim Cornette. There's going to be a lot of great people down there, but you are one of the most just nicest, caring individuals I've ever met, and it's just been a real honor getting to know you. So, no, I thank you, and I know Michael does too. You've just been wonderful to the both of us. Well,
thank you both. But like I said, Texas was just so much, and I was there for 20-plus years. And, I mean, he worked the booking office there with the Von Erichs, and he toured all over Texas, and he just wanted people to go to the matches and feel that they saw a good match. I mean, he wanted to give the people the best match that he possibly could. And, I mean, sometimes he would come home and he would literally be beat up. I mean, he could hardly walk, and he was scarred. But that was his business, and that's why he wanted to give the fans. And I think, really, that's why a lot of the fans still remember him today, because he put them first. He didn't put the business. He put the fans first, because that was who he went out to please.
I agree. Well, Michael, I know you got a format. Go right ahead, buddy.
Barbara, this is Jack. I just want to put a little 2 cents worth in right there.
Sure.
And she is right. When Bruiser got into the ring, he gave you everything you had, and probably one of the top 2 or 3 stars that ever came through the state of Texas. But you know, the one thing that I think, and I know you know this, and one thing that most of us who were ever around him or ever had anything to do with him at all know, that is how special his family was to him, and how much he loved them and how much he cared about them. And, you know, one thing is very clear with him is that everything he did, his whole career, the way he went about his business was in order to take care of his family, and that was first and foremost with him. Fans came up there right a close second, maybe, but I can promise Barbara that she and Jeff were first.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate hearing that, because I knew he treated it as a business, and when he came home, he was just husband and father. And I think the funniest story I have is when I used to drop him off at the airport, and he would have his hair in his ponytail going into the, you know, when he got out of the car, he would be dad and husband, and then I'd see him, and this was when the days you could actually drive up to the airport, and he would walk through that door, and he'd take his hair out of his ponytail, and he would become Bruiser Brody. And the same thing when he came back, and I was waiting at the airport to pick him up, he was Bruiser Brody on one side of the door, and as soon as he walked through there, he left that behind, and he came who he was in reality. He never lost sight of who he was. And sometimes in life, people become the character they create.
That's something that a lot of us notice too. That he was a different person. A lot, they see the wild, crazy guy in the ring, and the brutality and all that he was famous for. But outside the ring, he was nothing like that at all, and that was something that was always appreciated by most of us who ever had anything to do with him at all.
James, and you can attest to this, as a spectator, as a fan, because that's what I am, number one, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm a fan still to this day. I get a kick. I watch Bruiser Brody all the time. My son, Barbara, when I tell you, my son's going to grow up knowing who Bruiser Brody was. He's probably going to know, and one of his first words might be Bruiser. We watch him all the time, and he's real. He's going to get to meet you in September. But James, as a spectator, when people came out to the ring, when they first came out on television, when they first walked through that curtain, that's one of the things you're taught as soon as you get into wrestling school and you want to make it in this business. Your match doesn't start when you get into the ring. Your match starts as soon as you walk out that curtain. Right. Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen, Stan's going to be on here in a few minutes. When those two guys walked through that curtain, there was not a doubt in anybody's mind of who those guys were, what they were all about, and whoever they were wrestling, it wasn't going to be a wrestling match, it was going to be a battle, because you had to just battle those guys. And, that's what always stuck out to me. Stan would run over ring announcers. He'd be swinging his bell and his rope, and, of course, you meet him, and he's such a wonderful man. I never got to meet Bruiser, but, as a spectator, that just enamored me. I was like, because not everybody was like that. A lot of people came to the ring, they were cool, and that was their deal. But, just something about Bruiser and Stan just always stuck out from a lot of the others.
Oh, I believe that just because, and, him and Stan have gone back so many years, right back to college days and that is one thing I'll say for Stan. He has always kept in touch with me, and him and his wife and family have been a really good friend to me, and after it happened, Jeff used to go down in the school holidays and spend time with Stan and his family, and, Jeff still remembers that today. And I still am, because it was hard on me, because all of a sudden, we all know wrestling is like a family, and it's a very special group, and all of a sudden it was taken away from me, and I all of a sudden went into this other life, it's hard to talk to people about our wrestling community because they don't understand. So I had to have this whole different life, and that's why when I ever get a chance, like to go to any of the events or to talk to you all, that it makes me feel like a family again, because it was so much part of my life for so long, and I miss that part. Just to be able to talk stories, and to be who I once was when I was at home doing the cooking and making the bookings. And you have to remember, when that happened, that was before answering machines, it was before cell phones, it was before the internet, it was before any of this. So that was kind of my job, was to do the bookings, was to do the traveling arrangements, to make sure there was a meal for him when he came home. One night I remembered, he called me up. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. Him and Stan had been working in Houston, and they were arriving. They said, "We're coming home, so you got to come to the airport, pick us up." I quite often remember throwing Jeff in his pajamas in the back of the car, and we lived quite away from the airport too. I think we were like about 30 miles away from the airport, but it was just something you did.
What do you feed 200-300-pound hungry warriors at 1 o'clock in the morning, Barbara.
Whatever they want.
Yeah, whatever they want.
Oh, man.
You know, one of his favorite, his protein meal, because you have to remember, when he was on the road, he ate a lot of tuna and green beans.
Well, and you know, and I spent a lot of time in Japan too, and I know what that's like over there. I mean, the food's great, but it doesn't stick to your bones like you know, chicken fried steak does over here in Texas. And I know when you get back home, the first thing you want to do is chow down on something that'll stay with you for a little while. So that's I know exactly how they felt about that.
Oh, I know, because I remember I always have to go and make sure I'd get into trouble if I didn't have his cans of tuna and green beans, because as you know, when you're working late, sometimes there's no restaurants opened. So he always had to carry something which was full of protein to keep himself going. No, he was a steak and potato and Texas barbecue.
Right.
Which I miss the Texas barbecue too, because you can only get it in Texas.
We'll pick you up when you come in, Barbara.
Yeah, yes, exactly. We'll make sure. Well, Michael, I know we've spent the day taking audio from different YouTube clips, and I know you've got some promos to play. So at any time, you know, I know you got some of these and you want to play them. Before we get Stan on here, if you want to, sir.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry over here. Actually, guys are all talking about Texas barbecue and chicken fried steak. Man, I'm in California.
Yeah.
We have sushi restaurants over here.
Go hit a White Castle. Do you got White Castles over in California?
Well, yeah, but not where I'm at. So I'll just go hit Jack in the Box afterwards or something. You know?
Okay, there you go.
I'll do the best I can. Anyways, yeah. Part of tonight's celebration of Bruiser's career is to listen to some of the great promos that he did. We all know that, you know, in the ring is great. He was also good behind the mic. We have a few select promos that we collected from YouTube and all that, and we're going to play a little one right now. This is Bruiser talking about Ric Flair.
Bruiser Brody. Well, let's take a look at King Kong Bruiser Brody himself.
Ric Flair, it's finally happened. It's taken me a whole year, but I got you. I got you now. You're all mine. My prayers have been answered, brother. Let me tell you something, Ric Flair. I waited my turn. I haven't forgotten the beating I gave you last March. I haven't forgotten the beating I gave you last January when I actually pinned you right in the middle of the ring. I walked around the ring with the NWA World Championship belt in King Kong Brody's hands. The belt was where it finally belonged until the NWA took it away. After I beat you 1, 2, 3, I waited. I knew it would happen. I knew someday you'd have to face me again. And it's happened. And nothing's changed, Flair. Nothing's changed at all. The same thing's gonna happen that happened the last 2 times I fought you. I'm gonna beat you around the ring. I'm gonna out-wrestle you. I'm gonna kick you around. And I'm gonna pick my spot. And when it's right, I'm gonna drop the big knee on you. And I'm gonna take the NWA Championship belt. Finally, I'm gonna take it.
Now that is a promo. If I were Ric Flair, I think I would have been shaking in my boots after listening to that one.
You know what that brings to mind to me, and Matt hadn't said anything yet, but he can probably give more details about this than I can because he's a historian and he remembers things and I can't remember yesterday. But we talk about Bruiser and the vision that most people have of him, and most of the time it was true. When he gets in the ring, it's a brawl. He gets in there and he kicks and he punches and he fights and there's no moving backwards whatsoever. But the fact is, and this interview brought this to mind because it was about Ric Flair. He had some 60-minute matches with Ric Flair, and I'm talking about 60-minute wrestling matches. And you know, you think about Bruiser being a guy that just, you know, goes around beating up on people, but he can do a little bit more than that too. I'm sure Matt probably knows a little bit more about the details about those matches, but I know for a fact that he has some classics with Flair.
Well, you know, James, really one of the things that stood out about Brody too wasn't just the craziness that he brought to the ring, was also his endurance. I mean, the guy was a machine. From the minute he walked through the dressing room doors, he started barking, and you guys that have been in the ring, just going to the ring at times could blow you up. But can you imagine running around an arena barking and swinging a chain? That would have most people blown up before the match even starts. And then to go on and have a 30, 40, 50 minute, 60 minute match, it's crazy, you know. That was one of the things that I know that Brody and both Hansen were famous for. Even in Japan, where those guys were cardio machines, they were famous for bringing that style to the ring.
I can remember Bruiser talking about, you know, his philosophy about wrestling, and you know, the first thing he'd tell you is I don't back up. You know, he would sell, he would do that, but he won't back up. And you know, that was number one for him, and he could do it. He could go for as long as it needed to be gone. That was an amazing thing. He was a great athlete, incredible athlete.
Yeah, and I think it was that constant movement and that energy and that intensity that he brought that allowed Brody to get over, in wrestling terminology, get over everywhere he went almost instantly. You know, a lot of guys, it takes them months to get over with a particular crowd if they're not familiar with them. But Brody, as soon as he walked into an arena with that intensity, the people were behind him, you know. So, I mean, that's something that's very rare.
He was ahead of his time because, you know, there wasn't a lot of people, you know. There was very few. Like I said, Brody, Hansen, Abdul the Butcher was another one that was just real weird. Not weird, but just, you know, you had the Von Erichs, and they came out, they were smiling baby faces. You had the Freebirds, who were cool, they were cocky, they were bad. And then you had the Warrior, who was just still learning, especially when he came here. And then you had Brody. And then over in, you know, Stan Hansen was cutting promos about feeding his kids and feeding his wife. And that's why he did this for a living. And I mean, and then, you know, later I would appreciate more Hansen when I watch Japan matches and he's working Misawa and he's working Kobashi and he's going 30, 45 minutes like you guys were saying. And he was doing the strong style and he was getting suplexed like the little guys. So I think Brody was ahead of his time because, you know, there were very few like Brody, like, you know, the Road Warriors. There were very few guys. As soon as they walked out, you know, you knew it was on, you know. Yeah, Brody could wrestle, but you just knew it was on with Brody. And on that note, if everybody will indulge me, you're going to hear dialing. I'm going to try to get on the line. Stan, the Larry at Hansen. I told him I'd be calling him right about now. So if you'll indulge me, you're going to hear some ringing, and hopefully we can get Stan on. So just give me a couple minutes.
You know, one thing that I think we probably should recognize here. You know, I'm in Texas. I know, a couple of you guys are out of state, but you know, we had a special relationship with Frank here. I think he felt the same way. You know, he was.
Okay, it's okay. Hold on, real quick, James. Real quick.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey, Stan, this is David. You're on IHWE Radio. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's great to be here, especially you know, this is about you know, Frank, and it's my pleasure to be here to you know, talk about him and be here with Barbara, and I know that she's excited, and I hope that Jeff has a chance to listen in and everything. But it's my pleasure to be here with Frank. For Frank.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Stan. It's our pleasure to have you. I wanted to ask, and Barbara's been here chatting with us. And when did you meet Frank, and what were your first impressions?
Well, I got a real story and a famous story. You know, the first time I met Frank, I was a high school recruit. Frank was 3 years older than me. He was already at college at West Texas State, and I was there as a high school recruit. They were recruiting me to come in there to play. And anyway, the guy that showed me around, he was roommates with Frank, but I didn't know it at the time. And the guy was showing me around. And I said, well, I want to see the dorm room, you know, because I want to see what it's going to be like, where I'm going to live and everything. And so finally it's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and he says, well, he stops at his door. I push him to take me to the dorm room. And he says, well, listen, you know, when you're here, you share a room with somebody, and, you know, you don't have a choice who it is or what, you know. So, oh, okay. So he opens up the door, and the guy's name was Phil Hampton, and he was a senior, and Frank was like a redshirt sophomore, I think. But anyway, on one side, Phil's side, it was just immaculate. I mean, the whole place was just really, really nice, clean, and everything. And on the other side, it was like a tornado had hit. There was dirty clothes, there's trash all over the place. And he walks in, we walk in, and Frank, he's got this sheet on, no sheets on the bed, but he's got a sheet over him, and he rolls over, and he says, this is my roommate, Frank Goodish. And I looked at him, and he kind of looked at me and just rolled back over about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That was the first time I met Frank Brody, Frank Goodish.
Made a real
so from that point on, he stuck out in my mind as a real outlaw.
Wow. Well, there you go, Barbara. It was kismet at first sight with Stan.
Well, he had cleaned his act up a little bit by the time, he met Barbara, I'm sure. And she probably cleaned him up a little bit.
You could say that.
Yeah. But anyway, Frank was a great guy, and, of course, I'm sure you got some questions to ask me about Frank, but he was my friend, and we came from the same place. We came from a lower middle class, life, and we were hungry, and we were pursuing football, and Frank was a great football player. He only weighed about 215 at that time that I met him. He was actually very, very small, but he was a tight end, and he was just a great athlete. He was all-state in both basketball and football in the state of Michigan, and so in his own right, he was a good athlete, and it was just great to be involved with him. We didn't really get to know each other so much in college, but because of our connection to West Texas and Coach Joe Kerbal, we had that connection, and I think that always kind of, no matter what happened, we fell back on that connection, that common connection,
Yeah, I've heard just all kinds of stories over the years. You reached up, and I got to see how much Frank meant to you when you came to the Hall of Fame last year and accepted. And, there was just stuck to bond you two had. I've been reading your book that I got in March. James, don't get mad at me. I still got to read yours.
No, that's great. I'm gonna make Stan sign a book for me the next time I see him.
Just reading how close you two guys were, and you really learn to respect the business more and more when you hear about the kind of real friendship you guys had. You looked out for each other, and that I don't know really what to say except I got to see it firsthand when you came to the Hall of Fame, and It was just a
well,
wonderful speech that you gave.
I appreciate that, and of course, I do have a lot of great memories of Frank, and a tremendous amount of respect for his talent, and both physically, but also mentally, and he knew wrestling. He knew the wrestling business. Where I was a guy that was more just Katie barred the door and went out and act and react. Nobody knew what I was going to do. I didn't know what I was going to do, and people had to react to it. But Frank was a much smarter individual, really was a student of wrestling and the psychology of wrestling, I must say. And I think that that was one of the reasons of his success, on the outlaw circuits and so forth when he was working. He couldn't get booked in other territories, but also, he was around some really good minds like Gary Hart and, Buck Robley. They all had some good wrestling minds, and Frank was right in there and was constantly thinking about angles and so forth and the psychology of wrestling, and I think that really made him unique.
What was did you, and if I sound ignorant, I'm not trying, I'm just, like I said, I don't know.
Well, we know you're ignorant, but that's beside the point. Go ahead. Of course, I'm pretty ignorant myself, but
that's all right. That's all right. Stan has probably had months of being tired of me calling him. But no, y'all, as far y'all seem to team more. And I might be wrong, over Japan, or did you team a whole lot in the States, or, because I know y'all were at different places in your careers at different times. So I'm just kind of curious, if you did team in Japan, how was it as opposed to teaming up here in the States?
Well, Japan's a unique place. We really were able to we were promoted by two different companies. I was on one company. He was with another company. And they were promoting Frank and pushing him as somebody that the future. And I had an opportunity with another company and the same way. And because of the way business was over there, they had a little bit of kind of a war between these two companies, New Japan, All Japan. And so anyway, I ended up going to All Japan with Frank, and that really excited me because we had a history together back working for Watts in the Louisiana, Oklahoma territory, and also in New York. That was in '76. Frank came in right after me, and we got the team a little bit together. But mainly we were singles, but we did team together and everything. So we had this kind of history together and that was really unique, and we had the opportunity to get together in Japan, and we just said, hey, man, this is once-in-a-lifetime deal, and we decided to go out, and we decided to take Japan on as best we could, and anybody else that got in the way, and we had a great run, and it was a real pleasure to have Frank in my corner because I knew that he was protecting me and I was protecting him, and we were out for the same goal, and it was just it was a great time, and we were in a unique position, I think, that nobody has probably ever been in again.
Stan? This is Michael McCurdy. I'm the host of the show here. Thank you for joining us. I did have one question. I'm gonna put this out to you and to Barbara and James because you all knew Frank just inside and outside of the ring. We all know the man inside the ring, but what can each one of you tell us about Frank Goodish, the man outside of the ring? Because that's one of the parts we don't know about.
Yeah. I think you need to talk to Barbara first. I think she knows Frank better than any of us, for sure.
That's a fact.
Well, I think the man outside the ring, it was like I said before, he was just a father and a husband away from the ring. But he treated it as a business, like any other business that anybody is in. And he would get tapes from the places he had worked, Japan, St. Louis, etc. And he would sit there. We would sit there and would watch his matches, and he would critique himself. We said, well, I shouldn't have done that, and I can do this better. And this is why I think he was successful, too, because as Stan said, yes, he really knew the business. It was like an accountant. When you're an accountant, you go to school. He kind of put himself in school, a wrestling school for himself, and he learned. And, yes, he did have a lot of strength because we had a gym in the garage, and he worked out when he was home. Even if he was hurting, he would still go out in the gym and work out. And Jeff would sit there on one of the benches and watch his dad. And he was really just a normal person. And that's why one of the reasons why I wrote the book Brody with Larry Matisak was there were so many untruths out there that I realized that if I didn't do something, the truth would never come out about as he was as a man, because he wasn't this incredible person that everybody knew in the ring, like we've talked about here. He was just an ordinary person, and he was already thinking about what to do outside the ring. I mean, it was such a shame because we had bought a wrestling ring, and he had contacted a professor at the UT, University of Texas in San Antonio, and they were going to write a skit, and he was going to go around schools and do a skit about the dangers that young adults have in life, and figured out that they might just listen to him, because a lot of people I have talked to that he has helped listen to him because he could do it in a way that people would listen. So he was already setting all this up. We had also bought a parcel of land with a little, like a little river going through it, and he was going to make a boys' camp so that, the kids could go out there and have a little camp with him, to give people that don't have opportunities to go on in life, because sometimes all it takes is for somebody to give somebody a chance.
Now, Barbara, this is Matt. I have a question about when you first met Frank. Frank went over, after spending time in New York, he went to New Zealand to wrestle for Steve Rickard.
Yeah, in Australia, in Sydney. Yeah, in Australia.
Yeah. And didn't he also make trips to New Zealand, too, at the time?
He also made trips to New Zealand at the time, too. But the way we met was really, it was just a setup, because I was working in a hotel that all the boys would come to stay. I mean, Andre the Giant. In fact, when I was at the up in Albany for the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, J.J. Dillon, who I'd met in Australia, Bugsy McGraw, who I'd met in Australia, it was so nice, and they remembered, so we talked about Australia and things, and these were people that I hadn't seen for, 35 years, that I had met, and I was around them in Australia, so I was working, and it just so happened that I had to work the front desk. I was working the front desk the day that he arrived in Australia, and it was just one of these funny situations that he, because it was hard on the boys back in those days. They'd go to a strange country, and there was nothing. Like I said, there wasn't. Nowadays we have communication anywhere in the world, but those days there wasn't much communication except a letter or a phone call. And, of course, phone calls were very expensive, and I would, put the letters out. I'd give them the letters. They would show me the families, and there was a lonely existence when you're overseas without communication. And so I checked them and didn't think anything of it, but they were all like my big brothers, because they just wanted someone to talk to and share, because they missed their family. So, I enjoyed seeing the photographs and talking. I'd get phone calls from their wives or their girlfriends or parents or anything. And he had probably been there about, a couple of months, 2-3 months. And, you get to see people every day when you're working and everything. And then this one night, my boss, who was from Texas, of all things, had another restaurant and like a piano bar up the road. So I just happened to have to do a night shift and getting off at 11 o'clock, and they all came back from their wrestling matches in Sydney. And there was like about 10 of them. They said, well, why don't you just come up the road and have a drink with us? You know, you're just finishing work. So I went up the road with them, and we all sat down. I mean, I think there was midgets, there were, I mean, it was, you know.
Yeah.
But I've learned in life.
Y'all didn't stand out too much.
No, I didn't stand out too much because it's what's inside people. It's not how they are outside. You look inside people, and that's how you get to know people. And so we're sitting here, and then all of a sudden, one by one, the boys would say, "Oh, we'll be back. We're just going to get a drink." And one by one, they kept disappearing. And then there was Killer Carl Krupp, and there was him, there was me, and there was Frank. And then Carl said, "Well, I just need to go to the bathroom for a minute." Never came back. And that was how it started. And so there was just the two of us. There was nobody else there. They all left. I found out it was a setup afterwards because he wanted to get me alone, but he didn't know how to do it. And the thing was, I think what was good because we were friends. It wasn't a date. We had talked so much over a period of time that when you have a friendship like that, and if it does develop into something else, it's different because sometimes if people go out on a date, they're trying to impress the other person. They're not the real person, whereas I was a real person. By the time 2 months later, he knew everything about me and just in passing conversation, and that's kind of how it started. And then he was there for, I think, like 8 months. And everybody was saying, "Oh, he's just using you. He's going to go back. You're never going to see him again." And, of course, he had a little falling out, I think, with one of the promoters in Australia.
That doesn't sound like Frank.
So he came back that night, and he said, "I'm leaving for Australia tomorrow." I went, oh, sorry, I'm leaving for the States tomorrow. And I said, oh. And he just got paid. Well, he put this bunch of money on the table and said, "I would like you to come over." There was no promises. There was no guarantees. But if anyone knows Frank, he was really tight with $1. So I knew that when he put that money on the table, because he didn't know, I could have just kept the money and not even gone over. But he knew that he didn't have to say a word. He knew that I knew that he was serious. And I think I tied up like 10 years of my life, and I was over there within a week, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
So what Barbara's saying
story.
is she was a part of the first angle he ever booked.
Sorry?
Yeah. What you're saying is that you were part of the first angle that Frank ever booked.
Yes. You got it. Yeah, it came out because but he'd worked it all out with the boys first. He said, just give me time, just start off, but just go. and that was it. But no, I remember just sitting there, like I said, and it was, and we just talked. I think we talked till about 2:00 in the morning, and that was it. It was just like I'd known him all my life, and it just felt right.
That was one of the things that you asked what he was like outside the ring, the intelligence and the insight he had about a lot of things beyond wrestling, just life itself and that kind of thing. That's what struck me, and just the I don't know, just not totally opposite from the wild crazy guy in the ring. That's it. I remember.
I know it's some of these comments that I get from people that have met him, and a lot of these people aren't even wrestling fans. They just remember as being a child, like meeting him in the airport or meeting him on the plane, and they've said that he did, just talking to him, has changed because they realized, just like I said before, that you can't judge a book by its cover.
Well, I know that the same question was presented to Stan. We've heard from Barbara. We've heard from James. What about you, sir?
What was the question again?
What was Frank like? Not Bruiser Brody, but Frank. Are you allowed to say?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to take the opposite side of the coin here. You know, I think Frank would be almost kind of upset that everybody's talking so nice about him and saying that he was such a nice guy and he was just the nicest guy among everybody, and that he went out there and he really wasn't a big, wild, crazy guy swinging a chain and kicking people around out of the way, you know. I don't know. You know, Frank was a unique guy, and like Barbara's mentioned a couple of times, you know, he was all, you know, he was into the wrestling business. And when he come home, of course, we all come home and we get inside our little cave or wherever it is, and we draw strength and be able to relax and not be underneath the eye of everybody, and Frank can be the father and the husband that he wanted to be, and you know, and that's so important. But again, like Barbara said, that once he got out of the car and went into the airport, or once he, you know, he left, he was all business, and I think that's the way a lot of us had to be. But I think Frank carried it, you know, to a certain, you know, degree even farther, because he had such a wild character that people actually feared, and he promoted that, and not only among the fans, but most of the guys that got in the ring with him were probably scared of him too, you know, and exactly, and I understand that for sure. But anyway, Frank was a great talent, and he took that talent, and he really was able to use it to a degree that most people never get a chance to go. You know, when he lost the job in Japan for a number of years, he was forced to go out and become the number one independent guy in the country, and he was one of the few at that time, and probably ever, that actually did so well on the independent circuit, that because of the work, and I witnessed Barbara making plane reservations and doing this, and she'd have two or three reservations all for, you know, for get to San Antonio, be back the next day, and then he'd be off to St. Louis for, you know, 2 or 3 days or whatever. And what a team, and he was really lucky to have somebody like Barbara that was willing to do all that, and she must be really commended too for, you know, taking that part off of Frank. And they say behind every successful man there's a very strong and capable woman, and I really believe that's true. I know it's in my situation it's true, and Baba had Ms. Baba, you know, and Brody had Barbara, and so, you know, Frank had to make some adjustments, and I think nobody probably would have been able to do that except Frank.
Matt, you kind of chimed in a couple of times while we've got Stan on. Is there anything you wanted to bring up?
Oh man, I've got a million questions, but you know, really, I just enjoy hearing them talk about Frank and his life. You know, most of my questions were related to the actual business itself, and I know, Stan, you and Frank travel a lot together, not just in Japan, but you guys made a lot of bookings in other countries. Do you have any recollections about your times in, because I know you guys went to Australia together a couple times, or at least once, and you went to Puerto Rico a couple times together. Do you have any stories about those times?
Yeah, you know, I mean, we were a successful team, and but our main emphasis together was in Japan. We had a unique place, and we were dominant in Japan for probably, you know, 5 or 6 years, and that's hard to do for the Gaijins. You know, the Funks would come in there, and they were a great team, and they were on the babyface side, but and we ended up working against them a lot, and then the Japanese. But we went to Australia together. It was actually after we had kind of split. I mean, Frank had gone over to New Japan from All Japan, and it was kind of later on. And of course, we were really successful in Puerto Rico too, and we're in some great houses, and drew some great big old houses out down there for a long time. And I decided not to go to Puerto Rico for a while, and Frank continued to do there and was very successful there. Of course, the unfortunate, horrible incident happened and everything. But Frank was he was a smart guy, and I think that like I already said a couple of times, he really understood the psychology of wrestling and studied the psychology of wrestling, and that's what made him so successful. And I think he had a few opportunities to be able to show that ability here in the States, and the Dallas territory was one of the places where he had the opportunity to get in there and do a little of the things that he was really capable of doing beyond what you'd think so in the ring. And I was gone, and I was going to Japan at that time, so I didn't witness any of that, but I've heard everybody talk about it, and James talks about it a lot, and he was right there involved in all that stuff, and he really knows better. But I just can't put over the fact that Frank was a smart guy, and
one of the questions,
and I think that came through in a lot of ways.
Yeah, one question I've always been curious about is, in that last year you guys were working in Japan together for Baba, you guys had actually squared off in a tag team match with your respective partners. I think you were.
No, that was after.
Yeah, when he came back.
Yeah, when Frank came back, right at the very, he came back, and Jimmy Snuka was his partner.
Yeah, his partner. Yeah, was there?
Yeah, and I was teamed with Terry Gordy. Yeah.
Yeah, there's.
That was the only time we had ever worked against each other in that tag match. And
do you know if there was plans for you guys to eventually work each other in a match?
You hear all sorts of speculation. I'm not going to speculate on anything. It would have been huge business, for sure. But I don't know. It would have been unique. It would have probably been the biggest card ever in Japan if that would have happened, I guess. But it didn't.
Yeah.
So to speculate, you don't know.
So I don't think there's any doubt about that, if that had ever happened. But, Stan, you were talking about the Japanese situation. We all know, and I was fortunate enough to work over there enough myself. And when you've got a deal over there, that's what you take care of, because it's just a unique and special thing, and something not too many people get to do on long term like you did. And I know Frank had that situation too. And there's stories here in the States. People talk about he was difficult to work with. He wouldn't do this. He wouldn't do that. I never actually saw that part of it. What I saw was a guy who knew where his bread was buttered, and he understood that he had to take care of his persona and his image here so that he could be successful in Japan. And I just wonder if I know you didn't come over and work independence that much. You came over and did a couple of major things, but I just wonder if you had that same kind of feeling when you came back in the States and worked.
Well, I think Frank was in a unique situation. Like you said, he was out of Japan for a few years, so that was when he really honed in on the independent. And he became, very conscious of the position. And of course, I think by that time we were both very conscious of our position in Japan, and when we went out and worked different places from Puerto Rico to whoever would book us, and a lot of they booked Frank a lot more than me, maybe because I just wasn't looking for work here in the States that much. But they when they did book us, it was always in the back of our mind that we were going to take care of at that time was All Japan and Giant Baba's business. He had put a lot of emphasis on us and promoted us, and we had a certain position there, and we guarded it. So was Frank difficult? You bet. I bet he was, and I guess I was too in some ways. Ask Vern. But anyway, it's and I'm not knocking Vern. I mean, I appreciate Vern. I really do, and we're at peace, and we made peace, and he gave me an opportunity, and I never even dreamed, never even thought about being a world champion. I never thought I would be, and anyway, that's another story. But Frank and I both took care of ourselves, and was he difficult? Yeah, I guess so. When it came to keeping his image good, and he actually right before he passed away, he called me and said that he was going to Germany and he was going to work with Otto Vance, and he says, "Do you think what happens over there? Do you think it'll be big news in Japan?" And I said, "You dang right it will be. It'll be front page news, anything you do." So, I don't know if he ended up going or not going. I don't know. But, I think we understood our unique position, and I think Baba understood our unique position, and he trusted us with it, and I think he could trust us, and we took care of his business.
What a lot of people don't understand over here, the way the media covers things in Japan, or at least the way they did when I was over there and when you were over there regularly. Everything you did was covered, everywhere you went, and not just there, but over in the States. There's a lot of times I would make a trip to Japan, and I'd see things in those weekly magazines they had over there that I was involved in over here in the States, and then they'd cover what we're doing right there that week. So they know everything you do, every move you make, and if you do something over here that's stupid, you're going to be covered over there with it, and that's
And again,
yeah,
right, and that was before the internet, and so they had tons of reporters out here following every different aspect of the wrestling business over here, from each organization to almost every territory had somebody coming through, keeping up with what was going on, and faxing it back to the Tokyo Sports or whatever, and so it was, and it's a shame, in some ways, of course, everything evolves and gets better, but in some ways that the distance that we used to have in between Asia and Australia and the United States, it's a shame that there's no distance now, and everything is just out there before they're tweeting it on whatever, and there's just, that day is gone, and I'm glad I was involved in that day instead of dealing with you farted and somebody reports it. Anyway. Sorry.
Yeah, well, you guys were guilty of more than that sometimes, though, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing, with everybody's cell phone and everything else. I said, can you imagine the stuff Brody and I did in Japan? My gosh.
Neither one of you would get booked over here, I think.
We'd both probably be in jail somewhere, but anyway, it wasn't that bad. But Anyway.
Michael, I know we've had a guest on the line that's been patiently waiting, and I know you were going to try to get her on. So go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, we do have a caller on the line right now. We are being joined by a personal friend of Bruiser and I. Karen Merritt is on the line. Karen, welcome to IHWE Radio.
Hi, thanks for asking me to join you. Hi, Barbara.
Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm great. Hi, Stan. You know, I was asking some questions about Frank and how he was outside of the ring, and I don't know, you might remember, probably will remember, Barbara, when Frank came home with some needlepoint blocks that had Jeffrey's name on it.
I do remember that.
Yeah, he had gone shopping. I used to take him down to Doug's gym in Dallas when I lived there and drop him off and let him, do his thing, come back and get him and take him over to the arena. And he was always talking, about you and how he's going to have a little boy, here's his name, Jeffrey. And he went shopping for them himself. He was very proud of that. And he just said, you're going to love this. He says, I really feel sorry for this boy, though, because look at me and my face, my nose, and look at Barbara. This kid is going to have a honker on him. But you know what? He's handsome as ever, that son of yours.
Doug's Gym.
Doug's Gym, yeah.
Wow, not very many people, that's a great place.
Yeah. That's from the past.
That's a blast down memory lane.
Yeah, but I figured you would remember that because he took them, bought them himself. He was real proud of himself for doing that.
No, I remember that, and I know he always appreciated you because he said, Karen will come and she'll take me around, and I so appreciate it, and I know he talked to you and you had some great conversations and he gave you some good advice, which he was good at giving advice to people.
He was.
And it was really good advice.
Yes, he did. I had gotten into the business a little bit, and I had a chance to go to work for Japan, and he told me, I just started a good job at the phone company, and he told me that, if I ever leave that job at the phone company, he would never speak to me again. For one shot in Japan, I said, okay, and I didn't leave. I was there until, I left, 17 years later. So, he always gave great advice to me.
I know, and this is what, he gave a lot of people was, you've got to think the long term. Sometimes
exactly.
you think the short term and it doesn't work, but if you look at the long term, it's amazing what you can accomplish in life.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And he's the one who told me about the tuna and the green beans. And I always carried that in my bag. I even worked a card in St. Louis that he was on, he and the Freebirds and me and Shirley Black. And he saw me come out to the hallway, and he says, you know what, I bet you never made as much money here, as much money anywhere else as you did here tonight. I said, well, you're probably right there, Frank. He says, well, good luck to you, because he always made money wherever he went, you know that. Were you here in San Antonio when he and Mark Lewin and Buck Robley just broke the house down and it killed San Antonio?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I was there. Daryl Buck, because Buck was living in San Antonio for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was so happy that before Buck passed on, I got to reconnect with him, and we had some wonderful conversations. And I'm so happy that I had the chance to talk to him before he left us too.
Yeah, yeah. I used to talk to him a lot. I'd go over to Louisiana, and see a bunch of people over there. And, I would just pick up Frank from the airport, and he'd like to stop at this little Jewish restaurant on the way over to Fort Worth and eat before he went there. So we had some nice talks, and I really appreciate that.
Well, any time he could get to a restaurant and keep the tuna and green beans, he would take it.
I'd always find him something to eat, you know, and it was hard back then because you're right, there weren't that many places open to eat.
I know
So,
things.
Karen,
Yeah.
Sorry, Barbara. I was just going to ask Karen. We were asking James and Barbara and Stan earlier. You've been telling some stories. You drove him around. What was Frank like, you know, just as a person outside the ring, away from the Bruiser Brody persona?
Oh, wow. Outside of there, he was just a real guy. You know, when
he was really nasty. He was really nasty, and you know, he'd find gum in his hair. You know, let's tell the truth now.
I saw him really nasty.
Our tribute's turning into a roast.
I'm telling you, man, he's got a big old halo around his head. You know, and of course I know he does. But you know, I mean, he'd love to hear somebody tell it like it is a little bit too.
Well,
no, I know, Karen. I bet you have some great memories of Frank, and I know he was a gentleman in many ways. But
well, it was him and Spoiler and Gary Hart.
Yeah,
and Brute Bernard.
Brute Bernard. Wow.
Yeah, that was the gang.
Lord.
And you know how that goes when they all got together.
I know
y'all do.
I got the willies a while ago when you mentioned Mark Lewin and Buck Roby in the same sentence.
Oh, yeah, Mark Lewin.
Yeah.
King Curtis.
He's still going. He looks good.
He does.
I saw him 2 or 3 years ago. You know, he's out in you know, Washington, and
right.
he looks good. He hadn't changed hardly at all. So
he looks great. He does. But you know, Barbara, Frank used to tell me when he got out of this business, he says, you know what I'm going to be when I get out of this business, like half the guys say? He says, I'm going to be a preacher. I said, oh, really? He says, well, look at this face. He said, when I preach hellfire and damnation, people are going to believe me.
Oh, yes, and it's tax-free.
Can you imagine, Barbara, can you imagine handling the bookings for Frank to do people's weddings?
Oh, my God.
That would be absolutely amazing. How many wrestling fans would be getting married and wanting to fly Frank all over the place just to marry them? Man.
Oh, yeah.
I can picture him passing the contribution plate.
That's what I say. Oh, real quick funny story. When we got married in Vegas, because we never had time because he was always so busy, so he was on his way to Japan for a trip. His sister and parents were living in L.A. at the time, so we stopped off at Vegas real quick, went to a chapel, got married. I found the cheapest chapel that had the package deal. They sent a limousine to the hotel. They took you to get the wedding certificate, whatever it is. Went to Went to the chapel, got married, got back in the limousine, and I said, you know, because you're meant to pay the guy, like the preacher that pays you. I said, because he handed him an envelope, and I said, well, what did you give him? And he said, I still got the envelope. I didn't give him anything.
I thought you were going to say he made you pay for it, Barbara.
No, he still had the empty envelope in his jacket.
Oh, and you're right, Barbara. He would pinch that penny. He would.
Right. And then, like I said, he went to Japan, and then I went and spent my honeymoon with his parents and sister, and that's how it was.
Yeah, I understand that.
And you just appreciated the moments you got to spend together. You just took every moment and made the best of it.
Yeah, I remember him. You know, he would tell me a lot of his troubles. You know, he would tell me about trying to get you legally here. You know.
Oh, yep. And I am.
I know.
No, it took a long time, and lawyers, and he had to pay. See, this is what it was. He had to pay.
Yeah.
The lawyer, And it was so nice to finally get the papers and everything and be legal and everything. But, yeah, it takes time to do things like that. And it's really strange because for me, who's a really good stand-up citizen, it took me a lot of red tape to be here.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are, come, and I thought what it took for me to be here, it was incredible. The red tape that I had to go through.
Yeah, he did. He talked about that, and he was saying how much he wanted to go home and visit, and
now we're finding out all you got to do is walk up from Central America.
God. Yeah, Rick Perry will let most anybody in here. Oh, well, but that's another story.
But no, it was like I said, it took some time, but he had a good lawyer and everything went smoothly and everything was good. And a lot of times, yes, I would go I would go visit my folks or my dad, and he would go to Japan. And then one time he had a back-to-back Japan trip with only like 10 days in between. So he came and visited my family, and it was really nice that he got a chance to visit my family and to see where I came from. So that was a really blessing. And the Japanese paid for it.
Oh, that's great. He was happy about that.
He'd take, Stan, like he would take any opportunity if it saved $1.
Yeah.
That's right. So I guess when I went out and bought food and I didn't ask him for any money, he didn't care.
Did he ever buy you a beer over there, Stan?
Buy me a beer? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or four?
He wasn't that tight, was he? I mean, we're both pretty tight, but we've been known to be pretty tight, but we didn't chintz on each other, I don't think. We had a good time, but we were hoping some sponsor would come by for sure.
There you go.
That's right.
Anyway, well, listen, Barbara, I've got to go, and anyway, I've really enjoyed this, and visiting with James and everybody, and you, Barbara, particularly, and talk about Frank. But I must say that he was one of the class guys, and for sure one of the class talents of all time. And I know that Jeff and you can be really proud of how he was as a husband and a father, and I'm sure I am proud of how he was as a wrestler. So. But anyway, well, y'all take care. And David, thanks for calling. And I hope everybody, has a good time continuing on visiting, talking about Frank.
And Stan, I will see you the 28th.
Nice talking to you.
28th of what?
September.
September.
I will call you.
Okay. I know.
He says that because he knows I'm going to keep reminding him. So.
There you go.
For a moment,
okay.
heart attack.
Who's your booking agent right there, Stan?
Take care,
you,
man.
Have
we'll
a good
see
one.
you. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Stan Hansen just left us for the evening. It was fantastic having him on. We're still rocking and rolling. Michael, I know you wanted to jump in here real quick, so go right ahead.
Well, we've been sitting here hearing all the stories about what a great man Frank was and what a nice guy he was. And as Stan said, he might be a little angry hearing us tell all these wonderful things about him. So we're going to go back into the ring for a minute here. This is a promo with another legendary name in wrestling, Gordon Solie.
31st at the Omni here in Atlanta, world champion Harley Race will be defending his title against the challenge of Chief Wahoo McDaniel in a dog collar match.
Who cares? I don't give a bunk about Harley Race, Tommy Rich, or nobody else. I want to ask you a question, and I want you to look right in the camera and answer everybody honestly. Do you actually think that Tommy Rich, the young sweet boy that he is, can actually beat my butt off?
Iron Mike certainly going to give it a shot.
Nobody believes that. Let me tell you something. You got a bunch of young boys at recess here. They ain't nobody believes that Teddy DiBiase, Tommy Rich, or Mike Sharp, or anybody else is going to put a stop to what the heck I'm doing around here. You ask them, and they'll tell you, them people aren't fools out there. Ask them. No. They know like I know.
Yeah, well, this man will be facing Iron Mike Sharp at the Omni here in Atlanta on Sunday, May 31st. Match time is 8 p.m.
Boy, did he know how to stir up a thing, didn't he?
His best thing was.
Oh, yeah, you listen to that crowd back there, man. They know he's got them all riled up. They're ready to go.
Yeah.
That's right. Unbelievable. All the YouTube videos that there are out there, I was just kind of looking at a few because I didn't realize there was just so many. When I came across one of when the Japanese had come to do a little promo, and they had taped from the house, and I was in the kitchen cooking big steak, and huge big steak, and the Japanese have the film on it, and Jeff's just little, and he's running around the house, and it was just so amazing, just a memory that things that I had forgotten about, and here it was on YouTube, the old house and Jeff as a child, and it was just, it's amazing that these things, they last forever now.
One thing I can share.
One good thing about technology, I guess, Stan was talking about. It's kind of a shame that we have so much of it right now, and I kind of feel the same way in a lot of ways. But, the good thing about it is that you can go back and look at a lot of things that happened years ago, and it's amazing all the things that are out there. I see things on there that I was involved in all the time that I forgot totally about. Didn't have any clue, and there I am, so I can't deny it, But it is kind of amazing to go back and watch some of that stuff.
I know if it's used right, it's good, but a lot of it is used so wrong, and that's where it's bad. But used right, it's the greatest invention ever.
Yeah,
one thing I can share real quick. I had talked to Barbara about a week ago about getting some video clips. We wanted to have some audio clips for the show and all that, and I thought it was going to be easy because I'm thinking, okay, I've seen tons of Frank's matches on YouTube, no problem. So I just went in, typed in Bruiser Brody promo. I figured there's going to be a few. There must have been a good dozen pages of just promos, not matches, just promos, just him talking, like little 1-minute clips. It took me probably about 3 days just to pick out the 3 or 4 that I have on our board tonight. So, YouTube is an amazing thing to be able to go back and look at all the stuff he's done as a historian, all that, working on the Encyclopedia WCCW and everything. I use YouTube on a regular basis because I'll read about a match in one of the bios that I'm working on and some of the research, and I'll go on YouTube to watch the match, and 9 times out of 10 I find it. So, it's another way just to keep the memories alive here. And like I said, I wasn't expecting as many promos as I saw, being there. Matches, yes, but not promos. Matt probably knows what I'm talking about here. I can't remember exactly the context of the time or all that, but I saw an interview with Frank a few months ago that somebody had posted on something. I don't remember whether it was Facebook or Wrestling Classics or something. And it was just it wasn't a promo for a match, and he wasn't being Bruiser Brody so much as he was Frank Goodish, and I thought that was really unique. I didn't even know it existed, and it was pretty long. He just talked about his career and how his philosophy about wrestling and that kind of thing. And I thought it was really, really an interesting interview. I wish I could find it again. I'll have to look for it, but it was totally out of character.
Frank likes to go
back. We have
back.
Another caller on the line here. Real quick, I just want to bring them on real fast. They're a friend of the show, and they've got a story they'd like to share. Joe Souza, welcome to IHWE Radio. How you doing tonight?
I am doing well. How y'all doing tonight?
Fine.
Been good.
And Barbara, I would like to
enjoyed the history lesson.
Oh my goodness. Normally, Mr. Souza dozes off and falls asleep during some high school sessions, but tonight, I had my thinking cap on, I had my paper and my pencil. just enjoying the stories, the memories, just awesome stuff. And Barbara, I want to say it's an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to talk to you. And I have a story for you. I left the post on Facebook this morning. This goes back to when Frank was wrestling for Vern. And when Vern came out to San Francisco after Roy Shire shut down San Francisco as a territory, there was a lady that was there at the Cow Palace regularly, faithfully, for a good 10, 15, 20 years, named Dorothy Hopkins. Now, she was the one that made all of Pat Patterson's ring jackets, all the ones that he, Pepper Gomez, Ray Stevens wore to the ring. She was a seamstress. Well, she also attended matches when Vern came in, and she sat front row. Well, on this particular night, Frank comes out, with the chain, and he's chasing everybody. And he starts to walk up the aisle towards where Dorothy is. Now, keep in mind, Dorothy is about the same height as Frank. So he saw Dorothy and, basically trying to intimidate somebody that's almost seen eye to eye, he cut off in another direction. Okay, it's fine. Now, I got the story from Dorothy herself, rest her soul. She passed away several years ago. But anyway, after the show, she was in the back talking with Nick Bockwinkel. And Frank comes up and sees her. And not knowing who Dorothy is or what have you, because back then kayfabe was the order of the day, he walked up, tried to stare her down, intimidate her a bit in character. Well, Dorothy stared at him right in the eye and said, I remember when you were just starting out in Amarillo as Frank Brody. And then Nick looks over and, I'm sorry, Frank Goodish, Dorothy Hopkins. This is the lady I told you about. Oops.
Yeah, I could just see that.
When Dorothy told me that story, I could just close my eyes and just envision it, like, oh my goodness. And they had a great laugh afterwards. But Dorothy was such a great great person, great friend, and telling me these stories, especially the one about Frank. I mean, that one just stuck in my head. And when I found out you're going to be a guest tonight, I told Mike, I've got to share that story. Just have to.
Well,
now, if I remember right, Joe, you got confirmation on that, correct?
Yes, I did.
You talked to Nick Bockwinkel about that years later.
Yes. I actually, a few years back at one of the Cauliflower Alley reunions we attend, I spoke to Nick about that, and Nick looked at me and he boy, do I remember that, Joe, and we just had a really good laugh about that.
I'm hoping that maybe next year it's going to be the 50th anniversary, that I'm going to try get to go to Vegas and maybe bring his sister and his son and join the celebration, because I think everyone I've talked to trying to get people, I think it's going to be an incredible one next year, especially with the 50th year, and especially now I know Brian Blair has, Nick stepped down and still going to be part of it. And with Brian Blair now, and in fact, I was talking to him up there in Amsterdam when I was up there.
Yeah, Brian is going to be taking over Nick Bockwinkel's spot after this next year, I think.
Right.
Yes, yeah, and I was up there this year. We had had an NWA world title match at Cauliflower Alley, and we're planning on being involved again next year. And if you are there, I would certainly love for you to be a guest of the NWA for a while you're there, too.
Well, thank you. But I think it's something that, with all the people that go there, just something that I would really enjoy. And just meeting everybody, too, because after the other event, it was just so wonderful, and it's a memory I'm going to remember. And as you get older, you want to take opportunities that come about, and I think this would just be great. And I think it would be really good for his son and even his sister, who never really knew the business or anything, to actually see what it's all about and to meet people.
you'll find a lot of people there that knew him well, or at least were associated with him, and I think it probably would be a unique experience for your family, for Jeff especially.
And it's Vegas, where I got married. I mean, it's Vegas.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Well, Barbara, that's I know you went up to the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Amsterdam and you had such a wonderful time. It's great that Frank was honored, and like I said, I really we wanted you to be here last year, and when you couldn't, of course things happen, but I was like, Barbara needs to be here for the big September show, and I was like, well, I think I emailed you right after you got back from Amsterdam. And we made it happen rather quickly. I didn't really have to sell you on it, thankfully.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to have to. I was like, man, she's going to tell me there's no way. But you were, and when we got it taken care of, and I just can't wait for you to be here. James is really involved. James is involved with the NWA, and he's involved in what we're doing. And we had a show a couple weeks ago, and it was amazing. We had a great house. It was such a wonderful venue, and a lot of people are looking forward to September to see you, to see Stan, Jim Cornette. There's going to be that show is just going to be amazing. And but the people that I've talked to are really excited about meeting you, share some stories, and just have a good time. And it'll be just great to have you around a wrestling show again.
I know, and I'm looking forward to seeing your wonderful little boy too.
Yeah, he's already more over than me, and that's all right. He's a lot more adorable, and he doesn't talk as much, so he's yeah, definitely. So he came up to the show last weekend for a little while, and he went backstage, and he was you thought I was there with everybody's pay. They all swarmed him, and he stuck around for the first couple of matches, and then he said, "Okay, I've had enough. I'm out of here." So he went home with Grandma and Grandpa. But hopefully for September he'll be a little bit older, and he'll hang around for the evening, because I'd like him to see the whole show. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, definitely in September. So I'm looking forward to it.
And then also,
I might be coming in, man. I'm not babysitting.
No,
I'm not coming from California just to babysit.
Yeah. Okay. And then what Stan had said when he had mentioned it takes a good woman behind the man, and David, you have a good woman behind you that supports you in everything you do too.
I do. I'm extremely blessed. I don't say it enough, but I am. And she was there with me every step of the way, all the promoting, and last Sunday she was there. We were there for 10 hours at the building, and she was involved in everything, and we made it a success together, along with everybody on the staff. But yeah, Stan was 100% right, and I'm very, very blessed, and she's looking forward to meeting you as well. She supports the Hall of Fame, supports the wrestling, and yes, I agree. 100%. I am extremely blessed. I think sometimes, I'm not deserving, but this is what life gave to me, and I'm very blessed.
There you go.
Well, one of the things they talked about a lot during speeches at the Cauliflower Alley, a lot of the guys that went up to accept their awards, Short Sleeve Samson did it, Terry Taylor, they all thanked their wives and all that, and significant others, just because that when they're on the road, they're single parents raising those kids. So
right.
I mean, I know I just made the comment. I'm hopefully going to be attending the show in September. We're still working on that. And I got to go from California to Texas. That's going to be 2 or 3 days. My wife will be home with, 3 kids for 3 days while I'm off doing that. So, I mean, David, as he said, got to have respect for your wife and your partner-in-law. And I've got just as much respect and admiration for mine, just because what she puts up with just in the last 6 months that, I've been doing this show. So, yeah, definitely got to give a shout-out to, the wives, the girlfriends, the, partners, whatever, because without them, a lot of these guys can't do what they do.
Well, Michael, I'm going to say, hold on, James, I'm pretty saying, Michael, I'm going to state this right now. You come to Texas and your wife likes it when you're gone, you're not staying here. And so, you may need to talk to James Beard because you're not staying here. So
you guys were talking. You're all right about what you're talking about. I stayed single all those years I was in the business, and I saw a lot of relationships go down the drain because of the business, or at least either directly or indirectly, and for one reason or the other. And I always admired the guys that kept the relationship strong and put it first. And there were a few guys like that, and Frank was one of them. And I remember that Gary Young and Angie, they stayed together all those years, and they have a great relationship. Just people like that. And Bill Irwin and Butch, I always admired that. And I don't know if I could have done it if I'd been married all that time, but it's a strong. At least you get a good view of their character when you see somebody that puts that first, and even when they're trying to make a living in this business. It's tough. It's really tough.
One of the things that we get to do with the Hall of Fame is, I get to meet, the significant others, and sometimes when the person we're honoring has left us, you get to meet someone like Barbara or someone like Connie Gordy. She was at the Hall of Fame in March when James inducted Terry Bam Bam Gordy, and then she was at the show last Sunday. We had the Terry Gordy Memorial Battle Royal. And just it's intimidating. It's intimidating for someone like me to meet someone like Barbara and meet someone like Connie, because you people like you, women like you, were with some of the most iconic figures in the wrestling business. And these weren't hobbyists. These weren't weekend warriors. These were guys who live, breathe, and just they are the business. They are the Babe Ruths. They're the Mickey Mantles of professional wrestling. And so it is, I'm always, and especially if I'm putting on a show, I'm like, okay, well, I hope I might not impress someone like you or Connie, but I hope that you're at least, entertained. And Connie just had nothing but great things to say. And hopefully, you'll enjoy yourself. But just meeting, that's one of the cool things about being involved with the Hall of Fame is, you get to see, like I got to meet Stan's wife in March and Stan's son. And just wonderful, wonderful people. I got to talk to you, Barbara. We've had a, conversation. I got to meet you. I mean, I'm going to meet you in September, but I've got to meet you, just by talking to you because of the Hall of Fame. Connie as well. I mean, that is just, and that I just love meeting the families because, just meeting the families it's very touching. It's genuine, and so I love what we do.
You're talking about the last Hall of Fame and then inducting Terry. Honestly, I almost didn't make it through that, and it wasn't so much thinking about Terry as I was thinking about sitting there staring at his daughter. She's staring right back at me, and I was talking about him and trying to make it personal, and that's what got to me more than anything else, it's that family thing, that we all have to put first, and some of those guys, a lot of those guys that had a family that stuck with them all those years and went through the ups and downs of this business, it's just something to really admire.
Well, you did it. You did it great, James. I know you would have rather, not, but that's okay because, like I told you, last year Stan had a moment when he was talking about Bruiser, and he had a moment where you just had to stop for a minute, and that's genuine, and I wouldn't want it any other way. That's what the Hall of Fame, it's not a show. We don't put it on television. It's not for y'all to just go out and smile and crack jokes. Jokes are cracked, but they're, but it's more about it's emotion. I wouldn't have it any other way, and I'm glad you gave the speech that you did because it was real. So, but yeah, Michael, what's next?
Well, actually, we are unfortunately coming up on towards the end of our show here, so we're going to have to start wrapping this up. And okay. I want to thank everyone for coming on and joining us. Matt Farmer just texted me, whatever. Unfortunately, the battery on his phone died, so he left us unexpectedly. But things like that happen when we're doing live radio.
That's what happened.
So.
That's what happened. Right. That's what happened.
Hey,
Gotcha.
let's not say anything bad about Matt Farmer. He's going to be coming on again here soon as a contributor to our show. So, Matt's a good guy, and, if I got any questions about certain things, I can go to Matt, and he's always a, good source of information, all that. But I wanted to also, before we wrap things up, I wanted to give Barbara the floor. If there's anything she'd like to say to the fans, to our listeners, anything on Frank's birthday, this is her chance, and I want to give her the microphone.
Well, excuse me. See, I'm losing my voice. I'm not used to talking so much. What I would like to say, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, that I thank everybody out there, the fans, the people that he knew in everyday life, the wrestlers, the boys, that thank you so much just for remembering him. After so long, he is still so much part of our lives, and I think that's what's keeping him alive, keeping his memory alive, because it's still like he's with us. And then when I think, like you were talking about Terry, can you imagine up there, even Gary Hart? I mean, can you imagine the wrestling matches that they're having up there right now? I mean, just think about the talent that's there.
Yeah.
And they're all looking down, and they're, and they know. I mean, and you feel their presence sometimes. I know Connie, I've never met Connie, but like you, David, I've had messages through Facebook, and we've contacted through that and kept in touch with each other. So I'm hoping that one day that I do get to meet Connie also. But yes, just thank you, each and every one of you that still remember him. I mean, this was his birthday. This was a celebration of his life. So I just want to say a big, heartful thank you.
Barbara.
All right, and on that note, we are going to close this celebration of the life and times of Bruiser Brody with one more classic promo.
Real quick, Michael,
Yep.
real quick, let me say something. I want to thank James Beard. James has just been awesome, since the time I've got to know him. And I know this meant a lot to him. And he's been a catalyst for a lot of good things, again, like he was so many years ago in Texas. So I want to thank him for everything that he does still. Appreciate you coming on, James.
Well, it's my pleasure, David.
It was a pleasure to meet you in Vegas, too, James.
Well, thank you, and thank you guys for doing what you're doing, and Barbara, I feel like I've gotten to know you a little bit this year, just talking to you on the internet and that kind of thing, and it's been a real pleasure, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in September.
Me too.
And Karen, thank you for joining us. I'm sorry you had to wait so long.
That's okay.
We're trying to get everybody on and do their thing, but it was nice hearing from you. Maybe we can chat later on. I'd love to hear. I love hearing stories about just wrestling, because I like to think of myself as a student of the game, and I love hearing stories. I love reading books, all that stuff. But Barbara, again, thank you so much for being as nice and thoughtful as you are. I can't wait to see you in September. We're going to have a real good time. We'll get some barbecue in.
And there's that Texas barbecue again, man. Come on.
Yeah, we will get some Texas barbecue in September. It's going to be fantastic.
I'm coming now. I want some barbecue.
It'll be our honor. Bill Anderson's coming. We're just going to have. It's just going to be fantastic. So, but yeah, again. Bruiser Brody's birthday, Frank Goodish. God bless his soul, bless his soul. Bless his family, Jeff, Barbara, all of his fans, Stan Hansen for coming on talking. Thank you, Matt Farmer. And Michael, you deserve a thanks and a pat on the back for putting all this together.
I was proud to put this show together, man. I mean, Bruiser is one of my all-time favorites. Honestly, he is tattooed on my leg. So, he's a permanent part of me anyway. So, It was a pleasure to put the show together, and, yeah, I want to thank everybody for coming on and joining us. James, Barbara, thank you. Stan, Karen, Joe, you're on the line as well. Thank you all for joining us and celebrating the life and the career of a man who is the epitome of the statement, legends never die, because honestly, I think this last 90 minutes proved Bruiser is never going to die. He will live on forever in the memories of the fans and those who knew him. So,
yeah.
Anyways.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
We're going to go to one last promo here from the great Bruiser Brody, and then Dave and I will return with a little bit more of IHWE Radio.
You know, Gordon, I've been hearing all the talk that's been going around Atlanta here in different parts of the country about Bruiser Brody, big man, but it don't seem like they ever find anybody who's got any equal ability to get in the ring with him, you know? Well, I think the people here in Atlanta and all over the United States, the ones that have been following wrestling for years, the ones that have been looking at Bruiser Brody kicking people for the last 10 years, they know that Abdullah the Butcher's every bit of the man that Bruiser Brody comes out here and tells you he is every week. And I don't doubt that he's that tough a man. But I don't want the people here in Atlanta to think that they're going to get cheated. You remember 2 years ago when the Butcher came up that aisle in the Omni? And I jumped him before I ever got close to that ring, and I beat him from one end of that building to the next. And I know there was a lot of people who liked me a whole lot felt they got cheated. Well, I want the people in Atlanta to know one thing. When I get in that ring tomorrow night in the Omni, I'm bringing a little present for the Butcher and for everybody else who continually thinks that they got cheated. I'm going to bring me a big roll, and I mean a big roll of barbed wire. You see all these old nasty cuts on my head, all these old big scars on my head? Well, I'm going to take that roll of barbed wire to the ring. And I'm going to make sure when the Butcher comes down that aisle, I'm going to grab him by the seat of them great big size 60 pants of his, and I'm going to pitch his big carcass in that ring, and I'm going to make sure that the referee strings that barbed wire around so there's no escape for either me or the Butcher. And when we're inside that barbed wire, that means there's only going to be one man that's going to walk out of that ring. And you're looking at him. You're looking at the man.
Thank you so very much, Bruiser Brody. And I'll tell you one thing. He is all man. There's no question about that. We're going to see him in action in the ring right.
We having some curious background noises here.
Okay. Okay. All right, Michael. All right. Again, James, Barbara, thank you again for joining us. We'll go ahead and we're going to wrap up the show. But again, thank you both. Barbara, can't wait to see you in September. And James, I hope to see you before September, but maybe luck will be on your side and you won't have to see me till then.
Oh, no, we'll get together, my friend.
So, all right. Barbara, James, thank you so much, and you both have a wonderful evening.
Thank
Same to you,
Bye-bye.
and good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Barbara.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, Michael.
Whew. Now that was a show, my friend. Wow.
You did very, very good. Barbara got Stan to, she told him about it. Stan's hard to catch, and so she told him about it, and he showed interest. So I finally talked to him today. Like, I had been under the weather the past couple of days, and my phone was, I couldn't take calls yesterday or make them, so I had to go get a new phone. So as soon as I was able to, I called Stan and gave him the information, and we were able to get him on. So, but that was spectacular. Well, we got 15 minutes. We're going to try to rush through this. I got some IHWE news. We're gonna try to get Slammiversary in, but that's okay because Bruiser Brody over everything else.
Oh, definitely.
So yeah.
But let's hear what's happening with IHWE, man.
Yeah, I mean a lot's going on. Anybody wants tickets for September 28th, just hold on to your seat. Everything's coming. I have been getting slammed with ticket requests for the VIP tickets, the Jim Cornette Experience tickets, and Old School Hustle tickets. Real quick, I'm going to explain how it works. The Jim Cornette Experience is going to be live at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time the day of the show at the Sendura Center. It's going to be 1 hour. It's a live Q&A hosted by Craig Johnson, who joined us last week. Tickets for that are $10. That is separate from the actual wrestling event that night. We have VIP tickets for $20. That ensures you a front row ticket, a front row seat to the IHWE Old School Hustle live event, which will be anywhere from 3.5 to 4 hours of live action. You get to be front row for the whole night. You also get in an hour before anybody else, directly after the Jim Cornette Experience. You can go ahead and gain access into the building, and you can meet the legends who are there and the superstars who are there, like who have arrived. And I put an asterisk toward that because of flight and stuff like that. But anybody who is there, you can meet them, and then you will be able to get your seat ready to go. 4 p.m., the regular ticket holders will be able to get in, and the show's going to begin at 5 o'clock. So, $20. General admission tickets will be $10, and tickets will go on sale very, very soon. As soon as the tickets are up, ready to sell, you'll be able to purchase them online. And you'll be able to purchase them at any IHWE live event, whether it be the Legends of Texas reunion in July or IHWE Showdown on Saturday night, August 30th, and online. IHWEnow.com for all that information. IHWE TV, the weekly episodic series, the first one from the Dallas-Fort Worth area in years, it's actually in production as we speak. Now, we're still shooting for July. I may release the first episode ahead of time. Don't know. Just going to depend how things roll with it. But we should have a teaser up, sometime in the next few days. As soon as it is up, it'll be on IHWEnow.com. And, of course, you can get any IHWE information on Facebook, on Twitter, WEnow.com for all the information. And I posted this morning, early this morning, because I have been wanting this for years. But I finally came to a decision. We are going to put out a full documentary on the history and evolution of IHWE. From 1998 in the backyard with no ring and 3 punk kids doing 18 gimmicks to the Sendura Center with Jim Cornette, Stan Hansen, Charlie Haas, Barbara Goodish, and who else knows who will be here. The history, like people like Johnny Gargano, Kyle O'Reilly, Jimmy Jacobs, the Necro Butcher, Rodney Mac Jazz, Brian Kendrick, Maniac Matt Moore, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So, but anyway, that is going to be put into a documentary. We're going to be shooting it over the next few months. It'll probably go into 2015. It's going to be an actual documentary followed by hours of archive footage, matches, moments, outtakes of stuff you've never seen before, stories, the good, the bad, the ugly. It'll all be there. It's the entire true story. And we will be having either an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter campaign in the next few weeks. You can actually take part in making sure this gets made. And in addition, you can reserve your copy. In the next few weeks, you should start seeing promotional banners and merchandise pop up. We're going to have T-shirts. We're going to have posters. Everything revolving around this project. I cannot wait for this. I'm really excited about this. So, and Michael will be contributing as well. But everything IHWE, from the Texas Wrestling Hall of Fame, that's going to be the Southern Wrestling Hall of Fame come next year, to IHWE Radio, to Insane Hardcore Wrestling, the old days, to our live events now. Everything will be covered. We'll have interviews with everybody we can who's been involved in IHWE. So, it's just going to be an overwhelming project. And it'll probably consume a lot of my time in 2015, but the finished product will probably be absolutely amazing. So just stay tuned for that, IHWEnow.com. So that's what's going on with IHWE, Michael.
Well, man, as I told you earlier, actually last night when you first kind of mentioned the whole thing, you know, I'm on board with this, man. I've only been working with you and the company for about 6 months, but I'm on board. I'll dive head first and do whatever we can to get this done. So you got me there. You start the Kickstarter. I'll donate. I'll help. I'll do interviews. I'll do whatever it takes. But definitely, I think this is going to be a great story. And also, people can tune into IHWE Radio every Wednesday night, and we will have updated info, Kickstarter campaign, whatever's going on with the IHWE documentary. We will be discussing it here as well as on IHWEnow.com. And just started today. If anybody's interested, you can now go on to Facebook, do a search for IHWE Professional Wrestling Radio, and you can join our fan page. Just one other way for David and I to communicate with the fans, for the fans to talk to us, to let us know what they want to hear, for us to tell them what's coming up. So that's another thing. Like I said, go on Facebook, search IHWE Professional Wrestling Radio, click the little like button, and just another source for IHWE information.
And make sure, Michael, that you get with Joe and make sure that link is put on maybe the IHWE radio page on IHWEnow.com. When you can, email Joe and make sure. Yeah. So that's how we roll, ladies and gentlemen. We just tell each other stuff here on the radio show. So. Well, we watched. We got 9 minutes. Slammiversary was this past weekend. You said your wife was going to order it for you, so I brought it up to my wife, and she pretty much did the same thing. And I was.
I see. Mike's wife's going to get it for him. Can you get it for me?
Well, that's not exactly how it went, but close enough. Close enough. It just came down to nothing else was going on, and we had interest because of the fact that we did our show last week, and we were curious because I was worried that I was a little. Well, I would say concerned, not worried. I was, I was hoping IHWE would have a really good crowd, and I didn't know how many people were just going to save their money and go to Slammiversary because it was only 30 minutes away. So there was a kind of curiosity to say, okay, let's see, what kind of show they put on. And the Von Erichs were going to be there, and, I was like, okay, I haven't ordered a TNA pay-per-view since Hogan versus Sting at Bound for Glory. So I was like, okay, it's in Arlington. If it wasn't in Arlington, there probably wouldn't have been. I probably would have just passed. But I thought it was good. I didn't think it was horrible. Of course, the moment of the night was the Von Erichs and Kevin coming in at the end and doing his thing. I thought the opener was good. I don't know a lot of the guys that work there. I thought. I went to go get something to eat during James Storm and Ken Anderson because I have no interest in either one of those guys. I'm not bashing them. I'm just stating I have no interest in either one of them. And I really enjoyed the main event.
That was actually a decent match until the Dallas Cowboys got involved in the end. That was the
whole reason. When I'm reading, that was the whole reason for the match. It was supposed to be a Sports Center moment. It was a TMZ moment, but I can't really blame them for trying. But I thought the main event was very. I thought it was very good. It was short. I think it was a little too short. I'm a real big Bobby Lashley advocate. I think the guy's got the look. He's got the amateur background. He's legitimate. He's credible. I think he's the guy. Eric Young has worked very hard. He's been there since day one. He's a likable guy. I've never heard anything bad about him. Austin Aries is extremely talented. It seemed like the Arlington, not Dallas, Arlington crowd. How many times people call it Dallas? Like, these people don't own a smartphone and they can't just put their location. It's Arlington. So that really got to me because I live in Fort Worth, and if anybody holding a bit here in Fort Worth and they say it's Dallas, there's a good chance you're going to get attacked. So that's just the way it is. But anyway, in Arlington, it seemed to be a very pro-Austin Aries crowd. So there seemed to be a little bit of disappointment when Eric Young won because it seemed to be a very pro-Austin Aries crowd. But I thought the show was very well put together. They had a nice crowd, and I look forward to seeing what they do when they go to New York. I know the Great Muta will be there, and I'm looking forward to it. So, but anyway, yeah. So it was a very good 2 weeks up here. IHWE was on Sunday, June 8th, 500 people, and then TNA had a show. I think there was 31 or 3,500 people in Arlington. Good for them. Awesome.
See, the great thing about TNA, though, is they open up the show and you see the crowd. The building looks full and the crowd is loud and they're packed. But then there was a couple photos that came out over Twitter that show the hard camera side, and that entire section is completely empty. So that's where TNA kind of has their problem. Yes, you might tape off your top section, but they had one entire side of the building that was empty, which is kind of sad because they've got great talent.
They do.
I don't watch a lot of the weekly show, so I didn't know a lot of the storylines, so I was able to just watch a wrestling match. I enjoyed it. But their TV production just seems to be, it doesn't attract the crowd. It doesn't attract the fans. I don't know if it's the TV production itself or there's a bunch of varying factors on top of it, but it's kind of sad when you realize that one entire section of a building is just empty. I think that picture showed there might have been 4 or 5 people sitting on one side of the building.
Yeah, they have some underlining issues. They do have television. They have a lot of international television. They have a lot of international television. They have some very talented performers, and they have some very talented people in the office. Just a lot of people have given up on TNA, and that's unfortunate. Hopefully something happens, and hopefully TNA gets some kind of reboost. But you know what? I don't count anybody down until they're down and they don't get back up. TNA has been knocked down many, many times, and they're still here. They still got television. They're still putting on shows. It's extremely hard to promote, even for a company that has national television. But I thought it was very well put together. Who knows what all the underlining issues? I know there was a basketball playoff game going on, and I don't remember what was going on in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Well, there you go. See, I don't watch sports, so I don't know.
That was the finals, which I believe were won by San Antonio, which I believe is Texas.
Yeah. Well, see, I don't. Yeah, and you're right. And I know the Spurs won. I just didn't know that was the final. I don't watch sports.
It was the finals.
I don't watch sports, so I don't know. I know when the Super Bowl is, and that's about it. I know when the Stanley Cup's going on because my dad loves hockey. But that's as far as it goes. I don't watch sports unless it's boxing or MMA. I don't watch it. But
I'm with you. I watch football, baseball. That's about it. I don't watch a lot of pro basketball anymore, so I knew that the finals were on Sunday, so I knew that much.
Well, yeah. Well, there you go. So that was going on, and there was.
And we won't even talk about like soccer and stuff like that.
Well, the World Cup's going on, and people. But
really quick, I'm not. Sorry. I'm gonna throw something really quick. I saw a little joke on Facebook that I thought was absolutely hilarious. Actually, it was a little post put up there that said, "I don't watch soccer. If I wanted to watch, people, try to make moves for 50 minutes, I'd take my friends to a bar." I thought that was a great little joke. I thought that was hilarious.
That is pretty funny. That is pretty funny. I don't know what the issue is, but at the same time, they've got television. They're still, doing their thing. More power to them. The Dudleys are going into the Hall of Fame, and they had the Von Erichs there. And as long as me and James Beer were talking the other night, as long as there's guys there still earning a living, more power to them.
Oh, exactly. I admit I'm a Texas mark, so I ordered it because I wanted to see. My wife and I got it. I wanted to see the Von Erichs. That was the main thing I wanted to see. I was a little disappointed in the ending, but I knew that Kevin was going to come in and somebody was getting the claw.
Right.
And that's what everybody wanted to see. So it gave everybody what they wanted. They saw Kevin come in. I don't think a DQ win over the bromance was the greatest way to do it. I think they should have given him a clean win and then have the third guy or somebody attack him afterwards and do the whole thing with Kevin. But you do what you got to do.
I believe it was a one-shot deal. And so maybe
which is unfortunate because they did look good.
Yeah, it was unfortunate, but the Von Erichs live in Hawaii, and that's quite a investment to bring those guys up, continuously, just in travel. I think it was a one-shot deal, and the thinking was probably we're not going to bring in 2 guys and put them over our guys if it's just a one-shot deal, and I can't really argue with that logic. So, and maybe they were thinking that the guys who, the bromans would get more heel heat because they beat up the Von Erichs with a chair in Dallas-Fort Worth. So I don't know. Again, we're not going to pick apart the creative process here. That's not what we do.
And we are at the
so anyway,
25-second mark.
We're running out of time. Michael, we're just going to close. Thank everybody for being on here tonight. Michael, in the show. Let's go. And
here we go. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Thank you, James Beard, Barbara Goodish, Karen Merritt, Matt Farmer, Stan Hansen, Joe Souza. Thank you for joining us. Long live Bruiser Brody's memory. Bye.